Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to the hopeful elect that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And to all my brothers out here preaching this truth to you, I say Shalom. This is Amatazar from the Chicago camp coming back at you again with another lesson entitled Chocolate Covered Coconut Equal Tears. So in the picture you see up top, these two men are related. They happen to be the descendants of Thomas Jefferson. Yep, that's correct. Now, if you understand this truth and you understand the Bible, okay, your nationality is governed, okay, or in direct correlation to your father. So it's not about skin color, because what you're seeing on the left is an Edomite and what you're seeing on the right is an Edomite. He's just a chocolate covered Edomite, just like these candies right here, these chocolate covered coconuts. All right, so on this channel, I have a video called You Are Who Your Father Is. The Woman is Just the Ground. Take a look at that video, because the seed of Israel was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So Israelites look like all nations. All right, and that's in Revelation, the 7th chapter. Also Revelation, the 5th chapter. Okay. Now, let's take a look at Numbers 1 and 18. It says, "And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls, as Yahweh commanded Moses, comma, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai." All right, so Moses got direct instructions on how to number the nations. He numbered the nations based off of the instructions of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, period. Okay? So the first thing I want to do now is I'm going to show you a video of how proud the descendants of Thomas Jefferson, through his slave, I want to show you how proud they are. I mean, they are literally ecstatic, okay, to be descendants of Thomas Jefferson. So let's take a look.
All right, guys. Did you know that the President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, had more than one family?
We are the 7 great-grandchildren of Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings.
I'm 8th generation descendant of Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. I am the 4 times great-granddaughter of Thomas Jefferson. I am the 4th great-granddaughter.
I'm the 4th great-grandson of Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson.
I'm a 9th generation descendant.
I'm the 5th great-grandson.
I'm the 5th great-granddaughter.
I am the 6th great-grandson of President Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. And now you know. Did you know that?
Okay, now we know. Now, I remember as a young man at 14 years old, my grandfather, he said to me he wished that he was white for just a week because he wanted to see how they lived. Now, my grandfather happened to be very successful. He was the first regional manager, all right, in Chicago for a very, very prolific retail store. All right. And he dealt with Esau on a regular basis. And just the advantages that they had and everything else, for whatever reason, he said he wanted to be white for just a week just to see how they live. Now, me personally, at that time, I kind of looked at him harshly because I'm like, how could you ever feel that way? Me, I never wanted to be nothing more than what I am. As much as I esteemed Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson, I love them, but I ain't never want to be them. I've never wanted to be nothing more than what I am today. All right. And now, the water, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, to this truth, I understand why I've always felt that way. So now, for as proud as they are for being related to Thomas Jefferson, let's get the audio account of a slave, okay, whose grandfather, okay, um, worked or was owned by Thomas Jefferson. So let's get that account.
These are the voices of former slaves, victims of one of America's greatest crimes against humanity. Listening to them speak and hearing their lamentations does a different level of justice than history books ever could. John Henry Folk was a storyteller and radio show host who in 1941 started doing interviews with former slaves in a project to bring awareness to racism. One former slave he interviewed was Fountain Hughes. Little did Folk realize this interview would be one of his most important.
My name is Fountain Hughes. I was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. My grandfather belonged to Thomas Jefferson. My grandfather was 115 years old when he died. And now I am 101 years old.
Although many slaves were kidnapped or abducted, Hughes was different. He was born of slaves, as was his father. He didn't know any other life.
It's what they call, we were slaves. We belonged to people. They sell us like they sell horses and cows and hogs and all like that. Have an auction bench and they put you up on the bench and bid on you, just same as bidding on cattle, you know.
The auction bench was an infamous place among slaves. Here people would learn not only who their future masters would be, but exactly what price a person could put on another person.
Sell the women, sell the men, all that. Then if they had any bad ones, they'd sell them to the nigger traders, what they call the nigger traders, and they'd ship them down south and sell them down south.
After leaving the auction, they would be at the whims of their new masters. Of course, when someone is considered to be a piece of property rather than a person, little is done to make them comfortable. Deplorable living conditions, tattered and worn out clothes, and sometimes a bare minimum of food were all that slaves were given.
That's just where to stay. That's where to go. Turn us out just like, you turn out cattle. I say.
You know what? I want to give a shout out to the brother, the Akim, GMS dedication. All right, because he first uploaded this video, and so watching his video, I snatched a little bit for my lesson. So shout out, to GMS dedication, the water Akim. So here comes the testimony of this particular slave. His first name was Fountain. Okay, and he's gonna tell you that if he had to do slavery all over again, he'd rather just put a bullet through his head.
The slave's freedom was met with mixed emotions. Fountain Hughes was asked about how he felt about his freedom and whether or not he would rather have been a slave again. His answer was haunting.
You know what I'd rather do? If I thought in an idea that I'd ever be a slave again, I'd take a gun and end it all right away. Because you're nothing but a dog.
This period was one of the
All right. So there you have it. Fountain Hughes said he'd rather put a bullet through his head, all right, than to be a slave again. Meanwhile, you got the descendants of Sally Hemings. They got a roll call on what generation they was. So we're gonna go into this video. It's called Monticello Roots. All right, and I think we're gonna probably end it on that video and come back with part 2. All right, let's take a look.
In our series, A More Perfect Union, we like to show that what unites us as Americans is far greater than what divides us. So ahead of President's Day weekend and during Black History Month, we're looking at Thomas Jefferson's legacy and the unbreakable connections of his descendants. So take a look at these two guys. They don't look alike. That's Shannon Lunier and Lucian Trescott. They're related. Vladimir Dudiev of our streaming network CBSN is here with the story of their ancestral links. Vlad, can't wait to hear. Good morning.
It's a fascinating story, Gail. Good morning. Presidential estates have long struggled with how to present the founding era exceptionalism along with the full history, which includes slavery. At Thomas Jefferson's Monticello estate, visitors are given a peek into the slave experience on the mountaintop. Their latest installation, the Sally Hemings exhibit, and it gives its most personal look at this shameful chapter in American history. At the expansive Monticello estate, there sits a simple room with white walls, brick floors, and a single silhouette that represents the life of Sally Hemings, one of our third president's more than 600 slaves. The exhibit takes a definitive stance on her relationship with Thomas Jefferson and the children they had together. A story once hidden now has the spotlight.
I knew that slave owners all over the South had relationships with slaves, so why wouldn't Thomas Jefferson?
Lucian Truscott is Jefferson's sixth great-grandson.
As a descendant of Thomas Jefferson, I was given a run of the place. When I was a kid, I jumped on Thomas Jefferson's bed.
Shannon Lanier is also Jefferson's sixth great-grandson, but he's from Sally Hemings' side.
My story is a little different from Lucian's because when we were studying the presidents in second grade, I stood up and I proudly said, Thomas Jefferson is my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. And the teacher said, sit down and stop telling lies.
Come on out and meet your relatives.
In 1998, Truscott met his Hemings cousins for the first time on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Oprah turns to me and she says, well, Lucian, now you met your Hemings cousins. What are you going to do now? And I went, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know? And so I invited him to come to Monticello for the family reunion.
He was bringing the slaves and the slave owners, children, descendants together for the first time. So there were a lot of people that did not want that to happen. It also could mean that their possible icon, that Jefferson was a rapist. And they didn't want that to be their ancestor. They didn't want that to be their hero.
Stand up here.
Now they're really not going to like me.
The Monticello Association, separate from the Monticello estate, voted not to allow the Hemings to be buried with other Jefferson descendants in this.
You hear that? They voted not to have those Hemings, goddammit, buried with them. You see?
Graveyard. This is your mom.
Yeah.
Should the descendants of Sally Hemings be also buried in the family?
Without a doubt. That graveyard is for Jefferson descendants and their Jefferson descendants.
175 people on the plantation in Jefferson State. 135 of them are enslaved African Americans.
I grew up at a time when you didn't hear the word slave here. You could go on 10 tours over 10 different years and never heard the word slave. And now the tours you take here are complete tours. I feel good that America now gets the full story. I mean, these two rooms used to be a bathroom, and they uncovered that Sally and her brother lived here. And if you take the tour, they go through Jefferson's bedroom. It says John Hemings built that archway there. That was never talked about. You were never taught when you were a kid, and you weren't, and I wasn't, that slaves built Monticello, the Capitol, the White House. This country would not exist without slaves. And Sally Hemings was one of the founding mothers of this country. I like to think about Thomas Jefferson getting up on the day that he wrote the Declaration of Independence back in 1776. Who made his breakfast? Who came in and shook his shoulder and said, Mr. Jefferson, it's time to get up and write the Declaration of Independence? Slaves did.
I'm proud of my cousin for saying it. And it's so true because, 50 years ago when you come to Monticello, they act like Jefferson built this place by himself and there were no slaves here. And they're now putting context to the content and telling that full story of what happened here. And I think that makes history richer.
What do you think Sally Hemings' legacy should be?
Well, I think one of the legacies that Sally Hemings left her children was that they know who they are. They didn't have to be silenced, that they were able to tell their story.
It's one of the great things in my life is getting to know the rest of my family. It's made my life and the life of my children so much richer.
We can prove that after being separated by slavery and by history for so many decades, that we can come together as family, that maybe the world still has hope out there. They can come together and leave their differences behind them.
And we were able to get into that graveyard where Thomas Jefferson is buried because as a descendant of Thomas Jefferson, Lucian was able to get a key. He has a key. That is a privilege that Shannon does not have.
Is that going to change, do you think? I love this story, Vlad.
Thank you. I asked Shannon, it's great that they're acknowledging you as a descendant of Sally Hemings, but the real acknowledgement is when you sadly pass, will they put you in that graveyard next to Thomas Jefferson? And he says, right now they can't, but I deserve that right. I don't know that I want to be buried there, he says, but I deserve the right to be.
I should have the option. I love how Lucian is speaking up, and I love the two of them together.
Yes. They were wonderful, and what's really fascinating is when Lucian described Sally Hemings as a founding mother of this country, and all the mothers and fathers and uncles who built this country, he feels very strongly about that.
Who helped make history.
Yeah, and it's amazing because when we were there were groups of people that were taking the tours, and they were hearing about it, and they said, what's going on over here, Vlad? And I said, these are the two descendants of Thomas Jefferson. And one man from Iowa, an older gentleman, said, I'd never heard about this.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either when I was younger. I never heard that story before.
Glad to see the two cousins together now.
Yes, we know it's true. Thank you, Vlad.
Thank you, Vlad.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more truth. All right, that's going to come out. All right, so with that, we're going to end part 1, and we're going to come back with part 2. I pray that this lesson was edifying. To the next one, Shalom.